Next. So you will have all just heard that little notification about the recording of this session. We're going to record the session so that some of the colleagues who are not attending today will be able to view the session and complete the documentation as we have. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Oh, thanks, Alan. I'll start by sharing my screen. And what you'll see up on my screen now is the website for SD Consultancy that you may have been familiar with when you followed the link in order to prepare our eligibility, to complete the eligibility form. Across the top, there's a link there. Just in case you ever need to get in touch with us, there is a contact form right on the top of the website. On the home page, you can send us a message. You can use WhatsApp in order to contact us. It's all on the home page of the website. So at any stage, if you have any problems either with your e-portfolio or with the documentation, please don't hesitate to get in touch with either Ty or myself. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to do is then jump straight into the forms. I've got the first form open. It's labeled Form 2. Form SDC1A Candidate Induction Checklist. We would have put the details for the employer and you in on the first page, and that is where we will be signing digitally. We will be sending you a link to sign this form digitally. That's the last little bit of the puzzle that I'll talk to you about as well. So this is an agreement, this is an induction paperwork really to prove that you've started off the course and you understand A, what a modern apprenticeship is, and B, how it fits together. So in terms of page 1, it's fairly straightforward. There's a signature from yourself, from your manager, and from us. If we move over to page 2, we're just going to talk through. I'm fairly sure you'll all have these have these in spades in terms of health and safety, but we need to make sure that you're aware of your organization's health and safety policies, equal opportunities policies. You're on a training development course. In terms of confidentiality and GDPR, we need to be careful about sharing people's information. And we will also need from your manager, and we'll take this up with them directly, a copy of your employer's liability insurance form. The Modern Apprenticeship is publicly funded by Skills Development Scotland. And as a result of that, we need to be made aware should you have an accident at work or anything like that at that stage that affects your apprenticeship. So bear that in mind. We need to also make sure that when you joined, you had a proper staff induction. We also need to make sure that you know what to do if there's an accident on site, and how to record it and who you would talk to and communicate about it. We'll talk a little bit about your learner support. That's Ty and I initially. We'll talk about your own feedback, which you will get on your e-portfolio system from all the evidence that you upload, which Ty will provide. You need to make sure you're aware of any first aid requirements in terms of where your first aid stations are nearest to you at work, and then what to do in case of a fire, etc. I realize I'm talking to people from the oil and gas industry here. This form is sort of set broader, so a lot of that will be very familiar with you. During your apprenticeship, the person you will work with most in order to gather evidence is known as your assessor. That assessor will be Ty and Ty Sterry. Ty's work will be verified by me. So that means I'll be looking at the links that Ty has made to the evidence across through the units and the criteria within the units in relation to your qualification, and I will be verifying them. We are also subject to an external verification from SQA to make sure that that internal verification process is in place. So the person you'll probably most liaise with is Ty, secondly me, and possibly someone from SQA may also be in touch with you to discuss this. The other thing to bear in mind is because we're actually receiving state funds for this, we are subject to audit, and we need to keep an audit trail of all of the claims we make. Therefore, all of the digital signatures that you produce need to be consistent, and we need to make sure all of the forms are properly completed. The audit trail is quite particular, and they go into paperwork page by page. So that's the reason for this call, is to make sure we get all our paperwork in place. Okay, good. So that's me talk through all of the induction process. This last page is to make sure that you've got your name, your manager's name in the correct place, and our name in here. We're currently operating under COVID regulations. which means they're allowing us to use digital signatures, and I expect that they will allow us to continue to do so for some time. The digital signature is currently we provide it through a system using Adobe. And what would happen for each of the forms that we go through today is you will get a little email into your inbox asking you to review, accept, and sign a form. And when you do so, the form will pop up. The form like this one on my screen will pop up. And as you click into the form in all the places where you need to sign, you will see a note that comes up like this. Once this note comes up, you're able to do this on your smartphones, by the way. You could select the draw option across the top. And you could then trace your signature on a smart screen, such as an iPad or your iPhone. And you could enter your name into the box on the left-hand side with typed, and then you would click on the apply button. And that would take you through all of the places where you need to sign the form as we go through it. Okay, so we've talked about digital signatures, and we've finished with Form 2. The last bit of Form 2 is just to explain how the apprenticeship is structured. It's structured based on the SVQ units, which we've loaded specifically in relation to leadership and managing people's performance based on the content of your course. We'll also be talking you through a number of core skills that you will need to have. Now, core skills are things that you might have done at school. There are 5 core skills, and we'll be looking up each of your individual academic records in order to make sure that we have the right levels of core skills achieved at school. If some are missing or some are not high enough, we will just add them onto your e-portfolio, and Ty will be assessing all of the evidence that's gathered, what we call holistically, which means at the same time, through the units as well as into the core skills. Core skills are numeracy, communication, ICT, working with others, and problem solving. Some of you might be familiar with those. The last bit of a modern apprenticeship, once you've added the SVQ units to the core skills, is an industry enhancement. And in the case of management, that is a core skill at a higher level. So we will probably select one of the core skills like communication or working with others to be done at a higher level. Initially, the level required is level 5, and depending on what you've got, we will probably add a level 6 qualification for one of the core skills in if it's missing. So that's how the modern apprenticeship will be structured together, and that's how we will gather all of your information. And that's the induction process talked through with you now. So each one of you, please, once you're happy with the content of this form, please make sure you've saved that version of it. And once all the other forms are together, you can send them back to us in batches together, and then we'll commence the digital signature process. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the second part, the second form now, which is Form 1B, and this is something that you this is personal information, and it relates to your mental health and well-being. This is kind of like a check-in with you to make sure that we're accommodating you at the outset of the qualification in terms of your own mental health and well-being. So there are a couple of sort of hopefully you'll find them fun questions for you, just informing us about how best to approach you in terms of how you're doing. Also to advise you that on our website is a lot of information about your well-being. We also have an officer that is we've established that you feel free to contact at any stage in order to look for support and help if you're battling at work. If you don't want to talk to anybody specific at work, such as your assessor or your manager, this is an outside option that's available to you. The contact details would be wellbeing at SD Consultancy, and the link is on the screen, sdconsultancy.org.uk/wellbeing. Quite a bit of information there about sort of readily available information to support you as at work. So what I'd like you to do is to complete this form and send it back to us as part of the package that you send back. If you could, I've got a magic pen sometimes and a touch screen, so I can actually draw a circle around the emoji that best applies as to how you feel at the outset of the apprenticeship, and perhaps put a tick on one of the emojis as to how you feel once the call had started and we were involved and engaged, and whether that had changed at all or not. It's just a little bit of information for us about how you are at the beginning of your course. Then what would be really useful is for us to know what you would do at work if you were worried or concerned about anything at work, anything that was bothering you, anything like that. How would you manage that? How would you cope with that? What would you do? And then the last two questions are really slightly slightly less informative, but really just hobbies of yours that you like to do in your spare time, and what do you not like doing at work, that is, specifically, or at home. I suppose you could choose what do you not like doing at home or work. Some people put cleaning or conflict or things like that. What do you do when you're worried or concerned? People might say, I talk to my partner, I talk to my manager, things like that. And hobbies and activities that you like to do in your spare time might be things like go for a walk the dogs, play golf, get outdoors, whatever the case may be. So this information is really just to inform us as to your own well-being, and it's not really used in order to structure your learning. It just makes sure that we're sensitive to you as we talk to you individually. Okay, so that would be the second part of form 2. And we'll now press on to form number 3, which is called the SQA disclaimer. So this is a one-page document, and what it is, it's a declaration from you, basically, that the work that Ty is going to gather about you is your own work. The work that you upload onto the e-portfolio is your own work, and that you're not going to plagiarize or grab anybody else's work and pass it off as your own. So it's a one-page disclaimer. You just put your name. You should have your name in there. You can put the dates and just make sure all the spelling is correct and all that sort of thing, and then send it back as part of the pack that you send back to us, please. And then you will sign that digitally. Okay. We'll go on to form number 5 now, because form number 4 is really to do with anyone who has any specific requirements in terms of their learning, such as dyslexia or dyspraxia or anything like that. And I think based on the information that you guys have submitted, I don't think there are any candidates who suffer from dyslexia or dyspraxia or anything like that. This could change during the course. If that is the case and you wish to make a declaration at the time or during the course, this actually helps us. It helps us shape your plan to be more effective. And it's not something that is shared with anybody outside of the SD consultancy. What happens is we take that information, we upload it onto the system, and we actually sensitize the assessor, and then we throw the form away. So we don't even keep the form, and it's all the time that we deal with it, it's password protected because it's very sensitive information. Okay. Appendix 5 is the next one I'm going to open, which is Form 5. This is really the nuts and bolts of the Skills Development Scotland funding page display, 2-page view. So there should be a form. You should have a form which is part populated already. The first page would have your name and a middle name if you have one, date of birth. There should be a national insurance number and a Scottish candidate number. The Scottish candidate number is something that we've looked up based on the information that you've provided us with, and it's come from the SQA website itself. So I don't expect you to know that one off by heart, but I do want you please to double check your dates of birth and your Scottish candidate numbers to make sure we've got your national insurance numbers to make sure we've got them correct. Also your contact details, your mobile phone in particular, and your email address would be
just one.
Really useful. So
just one from me, Michael. I did notice that on one of the candidates, please do all check your national insurance number, because I did notice that there was one candidate with a digit missing on the national insurance number.
Super, thank you. I also realize I'm rattling through this pretty quickly and there's quite a lot to get through. So do stop me and ask any questions as we go along. You'll remember during the induction form, as I was working through it, I talked to you about auditors and us being subject to audit because we're using funds from Skills Development Scotland. The way that Skills Development Scotland, you can select the way that you want to be contacted by them, either by text message or email. Most candidates choose a text message, and what happens is you get a strange looking text message on your mobile phone to ask you to confirm certain things. So for instance, once we've completed all the documentation and we register you, you will get a text message from Skills Development Scotland asking you if you have registered indeed for a modern apprenticeship in management to SEQF level 7. And the response it will ask you for is simply the letter Y. Nothing else. Don't write yes or absolutely or I'm thrilled or anything like that, because it's a computer bot system that's just looking for an answer. Any other answer other than the letter Y, and it throws the whole system out. We have to start again. So bear that in mind and just respond with a text message to the text message with the letter Y only. If you could then all just confirm we've got the right address for you. And then we'll go over onto section B on the second page. Now, most people would probably select the not applicable for the first option of length of unemployment before commencement of your modern apprenticeship. Some people start a modern apprenticeship as they start their qualification. So I would imagine most of you would select not applicable in that case because you've been with Enquest for some time. Your current role length, we've had a go at selecting that. If you could just make sure we've selected the right option there for how long you've been in your current role and how long you've been employed in total. You should all be full-time. And then what were you doing before you were employed at Enquest? You'd probably select either working for a different employer or if you're a university student or whatever the case may be. Once that document comes back to us, we'll look into your academic record to see whether you have any other SCQF qualifications. I don't think there are too many there in terms of management. The SOC 2020 code is something that we will put in as well. And then make sure we've got the right job title in there for you, please. Your employer name and details should all be in there. And the box that says priority sector should be ticked yes, and it should be engineering and energy. And that's us through page 2. We'll move on to page 3. The MA provider at this stage, the start date, you could probably put today's date in as your start date. And the expected end date will nominally be a year from today. We'd anticipate finishing faster than that and working through with you faster than that. The area of Scotland selected should be Highlands and Islands. And the qualification reference number should be inserted there for management SCQF level 7. I'm just going to look up that code. I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's coming up. I'm just calling it up. Management SCQF level 7's code is GM2623. The qualification title would be management. The sector skills council would be instructus, and the MA framework would also be management. The occupational group would be management, and the VQ level should say SCQF 7. The training category, most of you are 25 plus. And the only reason why we would change a training category is if you had self-declared any disability or learning difficulties. So most of you should probably be ticked no under changed training category. Will the participant attend off-the-job training as part of the requirement for the MA framework? The box to tick there is no, although you will be undertaking workshops, etc. with
Sorry, Michael. Sorry,
yes.
Can I interrupt you, Michael?
Yeah, on you go.
Michael, sorry to interrupt your flow. Alan, please.
Yeah, sorry, Michael. You've got pre-populated here that VQ level is SCQF 7, but you mentioned SVQF 7.
Sorry, it's SCQF.
Okay, thank you.
No bother. Yeah. Okay. Right. So we will then go through. I'd like you to check no under off-the-job training. Therefore, you don't need to fill in any of the other information. Will expenses be claimed from SDS? The answer is no. And then under reference 1 for provider custom data, that would be your assessor, and that would be Ty Sterry. And under reference 2, that would be your internal verifier, which would be Michael Dalrymple. And that takes us through page 3 and onto page 4, where your full name should be appearing. And you can put the date of signing as today's date. And when it comes back to you, you'll be able to digitally sign that form. The next page, which is page 5 of 6, should have Fiona's name in it. And similarly, she will be signing there. And then on the last page, you have my own details where I will be signing. Okay, so that's quite an important form. I need you all to be quite thorough on that form. Please make sure all of those documents, and that's where we find the most hurdles in terms of our issues in terms of admin with Skills Development Scotland. Any questions
Can I
on the
just
form?
check one thing? Yeah, can I check? Mine has got pre-populated for off-the-job training, and it says online.
Or you can take that out, Helen. That shouldn't be. That doesn't need to be there.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, that's Form 5. And we'll go on to Form 6. This is particular to you. Because we're using state funding, there are some statistical bits of information that are collected about you personally. This information is not kept on our system. Once you've returned it, we actually do not hold it. We enter it into the database, and we only keep the final page, which is the signed page of this document. So these questions are all quite personal to you. And what I'd like you to do is just work through them and make sure you tick a box for section A that best describes your ethnic group. Make sure you go onto the second page and tick a box for gender and whether you have ever identified as a trans or transgender person, yes, no, or prefer not to say. What is your religion? You'd need to tick a box there through one of those options. The same with your sexual orientation at the bottom. Over the page, we get onto care experience. You'll need to tick a box as to whether you've grown up in care or not. And whether you have any disability. So this disability, it relates to the learning plan that I've mentioned earlier as well, where we need to be knowledgeable if you're struggling with dyslexia or dyspraxia, if there's any chronic health conditions or anything like that that might affect the way you learn, or it might affect the way that we interact with you. Partially sighted people, deaf people, if people are in a wheelchair or using crutches, that could also be a box to tick. And I just wanted to really emphasize that ticking the box actually helps us deliver the project and the learning more effectively. This information is not declared to your employer, and none of the information gets any further than the database for Skills Development Scotland as we put it in. So if there are any of those boxes that you wish to tick, by all means do so. What that does mean, if you tick that box, is that we go and develop that Form 4 that I skipped over earlier, and we make sure that your learning plan is specific and tailored to accommodate your needs. And it really, what that Form 4 will do is it will allow us to reflect on what's worked really well for you in the past in terms of your learning, and make sure we maximize that way of learning for you rather than any other way. Some people prefer using audio and video files rather than written work. Things like that are easily accommodated. The e-portfolio is also set up with fonts that can accommodate people with dyslexia more effectively, and color systems and things like that. So there's some really easy fixes for us that can make your learning experience more effective if we know. Okay, I think I've made that pretty clear, and we'll just go on to the last page. And this is the page that we retain, which should have your name, and you can put today's date in it, and when it comes back to me, we'll send it back to you for digital signature. And that's us through Form 6. There's only one more form to work through, which is Form 7. Form 7 is to do with the Skills Sector Council, and it's a registration. It's called a training plan, but it's actually a little training contract between 3 parties, which is us as the provider, you as the learner, and your employer to facilitate your learning. So I'm just going to open up the Word document. You should find your name and that of Fiona pre-populated in the form. And you should find your details, your full name and your work address on the second page, home address, work address, date of birth. Please just make sure all of those are correctly filled out. Make sure the name of your employer is at the top, Enquest, and your own name is in the form on the top of page 1. So make sure we haven't done a typo error as we've mass produced these documents. Okay, so that's us talk through all of the forms that are necessary. And the idea would be that each one of you checks all of those forms, make sure they're all correct, sends them back to me in a group. And then what will happen is we will develop digital signatures for you. We'll send you the forms back. You'll sign them digitally, as I showed you with that pop-up where you click on the link on the email and you sign them, you trace them with a smartphone. And that will work that'll come back to me, and a copy will come back to you. We'll establish a profile for you. We'll register you on the skills development system, on the SQA system, and on a system called MA Online. And once those 3 registrations are through, we create an e-portfolio for you, and you're learning, and Ty can start gathering the evidence of your knowledge and competence based on the information that's generated as a result of the workshops that you take part in and the work product that you do at work. Okay, so that's us through the forms. We've done that really well, actually. What I'd like to do now is to just show you what an e-portfolio looks like, and a typical e-portfolio from somebody that I've been working with in the past, who has done the same qualifications you are doing all the way through from what we know is level 7 through level 9, which is probably where you'll go to, and on to level 11. So this person is a guy called Tobias. And Tobias and I have done a lot of work over the years. Tobias is a health and safety manager for a fish farm near Oban on the west coast of Scotland. And Tobias contacted us about 2 or 3 years ago in order to commence learning online. I've never met Tobias. I've worked with him online for the last 2.5 years, and we've been gathering evidence of his knowledge and competence as a result of that. So what I'd like to show you is, this is the landing page that you will probably see for your own portfolio once it's set up. And in order to go into your own portfolio, you would click on the management link here and on the orange triangle. If you wish to upload evidence of your knowledge, such as a worksheet or such as a questions and answer session, or if you've recorded something at work that you think would be really interesting for Ty to look at, then you could do it by adding evidence, which we'll come to in a minute. But for now, I'm going to take you into Tobias's management qualification, and I'm going to show you the units that Tobias has selected as part of his management qualification. He's selected, similar to you guys, a leadership unit. He's got continuous improvement within the business. He's identifying and evaluating opportunities for innovation and improvement. He's evaluating his organization's operating environment, again, health and safety regulations, ethical and social requirements. He's developing strategic business plans, and as well as developing and sustaining productive working relationships with stakeholders for his own business, managing risks and engaging people in change. Some of them he completed on the earlier qualifications. But when you log in and you click through on that little triangle, you'll be able to see how far you are through the qualification at any stage. So you can see at this stage, Tobias is 36% of the way through his qualification, and he's completed 2 of the units. He's very close to completing a 3rd unit. And that's how it all stacks up and works. If there are core skills to add on, what you will see is you'll see your management qualification as well as a core skill little box with a triangle next to it that you can click on. Just to take you through adding evidence, you would select the adding evidence. You can see that Tobias is actually, between Tobias and I, we've uploaded 109 bits of evidence that have been accepted, and 3 bits of evidence that have been verified by the internal verifier. There are 7 bits of evidence that he's obviously just uploaded recently that I haven't got to look at yet, that I'll need to go in and evaluate as his assessor. But if you were going to add evidence, you would select the Add Evidence button here, and then you would choose one of the categories to add it, depending on the type of evidence it is. So if it's a worksheet, if it's an assignment that you've done, if it's a photo, an audio file, or a video, it may be a question and answer session. It may be minutes from a meeting that you've attended or that you've chaired, or that you've organized. It may be a professional discussion you've had with somebody, such as Ty. It may be a reflective account when you're reflecting on your own work as well. It also could be a witness testimony. So that could be something where you know, or your manager knows that you've undertaken something, and they can tell you. They send you a note to say thank you for managing that meeting correctly. It's much appreciated. That's the sort of evidence that we'd be looking for. So depending on the type of evidence it is, most of it might be digital evidence, I think, or work product at this stage that you'd be uploading. So for instance, work product might be, as I say, minutes of a meeting that you've chaired. A voice recording or photo or videos, if you select that, If you select that option, it puts it into that category. However, this page then is the same, irrespective of which category you chose. You'd be able to put a title in. So you'd put a title in to label the bit of evidence. I normally use the date. So I would put 2021-09-14, and then I'd say minutes of, team meeting. And then this button here, the details button or field, that's where the magic happens. That's where I'd encourage you to put as much context about your information as is possible into that details field, so that we can really get a good understanding of your role in producing that information or that work product or whatever the case may be. You won't see a option to change its status. That's something that an assessor sees. So most of the information that you put in will come in as submitted evidence. And I don't think you'll be able to set yourself any targets either. So don't worry about the targets thing. You probably won't see that. And most of the evidence that comes in is submitted evidence. And then you would drag and drop it into this box here. So if I was going to drag and drop something from my desktop, I would simply drag and drop it into the field. And then once that's done, you click on the update field, and that sends a little notification to Ty that there's something on your account for him to look at. And that's how the e-portfolio works. Once we've set up an e-portfolio for you, we will send you an email with your login details and your password. There are helpful little videos that we've set up that can also help you understand how to use the website and how to use the 4Skills portfolio. So those are all coming, and that's the sort of next step once we've got you through this administrative step. And I think in conclusion, I've explained to you about how SD Consultancy works. We deliver apprenticeships throughout Scotland, not only in management, but also in administration and digital marketing, and largely in hospitality. So that's how we fit into the picture. We're a partner of PostPro, and we are able to facilitate the delivery in Scotland of the apprenticeships for Enquest. We've talked through 7 forms. Well, one of them you've already populated digitally, the eligibility form, and we've talked through the remaining 6. Form 4 is probably one that you won't need to complete unless something happens. And remember also, you can make that self-declaration anywhere through your course. If something develops as a result of that and your circumstances change, you can make that declaration at any time. We've talked to you about supporting you in terms of your own health and well-being. We've talked to you about the information on our website with loads of information. So on our website, the well-being link is across the top. If you click on the well-being link, you'll be able to see a little bit of information there from our own mental health first aider, who you're free to reach out to and seek support from at any stage. His name is Douglas, and his email is wellbeing@sdconsultancy.org. There's loads of other bits of information there. There's also details about a mental health and well-being training course that we deliver as well. Okay, so we've been through the forms and we've been through the e-portfolio, where I've shown you how to upload information that Ty could do. Ty will also be uploading information like the contents of your workshops and things that you attend with PostPro. And I think that's as much as I need to tell you for now. Obviously, the next steps would be the return from yourselves of the forms in a package to me and to Ty. And then the digital signature part, and then the registration part, the text message that you'll receive that you need to confirm, and then we're good to go. Great. That was quite a lot.
Now, Michael, take a breath, cup of tea.
Yeah.
top job, mate.
I'll stop the recording now. I think we're good. Stop the